Hello and welcome to all of you. In this video, we are going to start about a topic that is antimicrobial. As the name suggests, antimicrobial, the medicines which are given against microbes. So these medicines can be antibiotics which are given against bacteria, can be antifungal, antiviral against fungus and virus. Similarly, we have antiprotozoal drugs and antihelminth medicines. So we're going to start with the first topic, the medicines which are known as antibiotics. So antibiotics are the drugs which are given against bacteria. So first of all, the classification of antibiotics. So if we talk about the classification of antibiotics, antibiotics which are given by systemic route can be grossly classified in total 5 groups. So as we know the structure of the bacteria, so in bacteria, the outermost layer is known as the cell wall. Like we know that the difference between the bacterial cell and the human cells do not have the cell wall, the bacteria cells have cell wall. So this is the cell wall which is present in the bacteria. This is made up of peptidoglycan. So the main component of cell wall of the bacteria is known as peptidoglycan. Now immediately after cell wall we have a cell membrane. So after cell wall we have cell membrane. So we have cell wall, we have cell membrane, and next to the cell membrane we have a presence of cytoplasm in the bacteria. So in cytoplasm we have the presence of ribosomes. So we have the presence of ribosomes, and you know that in bacterial ribosomes we have presence of two subunits. One is known as 50S, one is known as 30S. So two subunits are there, 50S and 30S. If we compare it with the human cells, in human cells we have 60-40, here we have 50-30. So in these ribosomes protein synthesis will take place, and after the protein synthesis there is a presence of a nuclear material present in the cytoplasm. So that nuclear material present in the cytoplasm, this can be chromosomes, can be DNA, and the multiple things are there. So by knowing this structure, we have the classification of the antibiotics. So according to this classification of antibiotics, the first group of medicines are known as cell wall inhibitors. So the first group of medicines are known as cell wall inhibitors. We are going from outside to inside. So we have our medicines which is cell wall inhibitors. Number 2, after cell wall inhibitors, we have the medicines which are known as cell membrane inhibitors. So we have the drugs which are known as cell membrane inhibitors. Now after cell membrane, we have a next structure, cytoplasm, and in cytoplasm we have ribosomes. In ribosomes, protein synthesis will take place. So we have a third group of medicines, we call them protein synthesis inhibitors. So we have cell wall inhibitors, cell membrane inhibitors, we have protein synthesis inhibitor. Now we have a fourth group of medicines which are inhibitor of the folic acid pathway that is taking place in the bacteria. So we call them folic acid pathway inhibitors. So we have medicines which are known as folic acid pathway inhibitors. We also call them metabolic pathways inhibitor. So we have a folic acid pathway, we have a metabolic pathway, the same thing. So medicines are metabolic pathway inhibitor, folic acid pathway inhibitor. Now this you people have to understand. This folic acid pathway in bacteria starts in cytoplasm but ultimately required for DNA replication. So nuclear material, that is the DNA, that can multiply in presence of the folic acid pathway. So folic acid pathway will generate some free carbon atoms, some one carbon atom, and that is required for the DNA replication. So if we inhibit this metabolic pathway, if we inhibit this folic acid pathway, indirectly I am blocking the DNA pathway of the bacteria. The last group of medicines are those which are inhibitor of the nuclear pathways. So we have multiple types of nuclear pathways which are going in this bacteria, like the DNA multiplication, DNA replication we call it. So medicines are inhibitor of DNA replication, conversion of DNA to RNA. Multiple steps are taking place in bacteria that is inhibited by these medicines. So these are the main 5 classes of antibiotics that is given by systemic route, and this classification of antibiotic is based on the mechanism of action. So these are the mechanism of actions of antibiotics. On the basis of mechanism of action, we can classify these medicines in total 5 groups. Now apart from these medicines, we have some antibiotic ointment also. So antibiotic ointments, they are given or they are applied by the local route. So these antibiotic ointments applied by the local route, but the above 5 group of antibiotics, these medicines are given by the systemic route. So local antibiotics are not very important for the exam, so we will not give much importance to this topic, but we will discuss the above medicines in detail. Now in this video, we will talk about this classification of antibiotic in detail, and further in a subsequent video, we will talk about the other properties of antibiotic. So starting with the first group of antibiotics, the first group of antibiotic is known as the cell wall inhibitors. First group of antibiotic known as cell wall inhibitor. Now we discussed already this point that the bacterial cell wall is made up of peptidoglycan. The main building block is known as peptidoglycan that is present in this bacteria. Now, how this peptidoglycan synthesis will take place in bacteria, that we'll discuss. So, for the synthesis of peptidoglycan in this bacteria, this requires two raw material. One is known as UDP, N-acetyl glucosamine, right? So, this requires N-acetyl glucosamine. This is the first raw material. The second raw material is UDP, N-acetyl muramic acid. So there are two things which bacteria required to make one peptidoglycan. One is N-acetyl glucosamine and second is N-acetyl muramic acid. That is a UDP, NAG, UDP, NAM. These two are the raw material that is required for synthesis of the peptidoglycan. So how the synthesis of peptidoglycan starts? So there is a presence of a UDP, NAG. Now this is first of all converted to UDP, NAM. UDP NAG is first of all converted to UDP NAM. This is the first step in the synthesis of the bacterial cell wall. Now this step is inhibited by an antibiotic. The name is fosfomycin. So fosfomycin is the first antibiotic which is cell wall inhibitor, and this medicine is inhibitor of the first step where it will block the conversion of NAG to NAM that is taking place in this bacteria for the peptidoglycan synthesis. Now, when this NAM is formed in the bacteria, like if you have not given the fosfomycin, the NAM is already formed in the bacteria. So, this NAM that is formed in this bacteria, this NAM has a tendency to bind with 5 amino acid as well as it has tendency to bind with the unchanged NAG. You can see over here, we have a NAM present over here. The NAM will bind to 5 amino acid that is present in a shape of a chain. So, 5 amino acid chain is present. So this is the 5 amino acid chain which is present over here. So in this 5 amino acid chain, there is a presence of amino acid like the D-alanine as the last 2 amino acid. So we have D-alanine, last 2 amino acid that is present in this 5 amino acid chain. You can see this is a 5 amino acid chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to bind with the NAM. So D-alanine are the 2 last amino acid that will bind to this NAM along with this chain. Now this NAM will also bind to the unconverted NAG. So NAM will bind to 5 amino acid chain. It will also bind to the unconverted NAG. Now once this NAM will make a contact with two things. One is NAG, one is this 5 amino acid. Now this will result in synthesis of one peptidoglycan. So here there is a synthesis of one peptidoglycan that will take place. So this is the one peptidoglycan that is formed in this bacterial cell wall. Now, this one peptidoglycan, this will start making the contact with other peptidoglycan which are also formed side by side. So this is one peptidoglycan. Similarly, we have multiple peptidoglycan present in this bacterial cell wall. For example, we have this one amino acid, one peptidoglycan which I am drawing over here. So here I have drawn 3 peptidoglycan which are required for synthesis of the bacterial cell wall. So you can see 3 peptidoglycans present over here. Here we have a presence of NAG, NAM and 5 amino acid. The last 2 amino acids known as D-alanine. Now these peptidoglycans will start binding to each other and they arrange themselves in a 2-dimensional change. Now for this formation of a 2-dimensional change of this NAG and NAM or peptidoglycan, this required one enzyme. The name of the enzyme is transglycosylase enzyme, or we also call it glycosyl transferase enzyme. So we have a presence of an enzyme, we call it glycosyl transferase enzyme, which is also known as transglycosylase enzyme. So we have one enzyme, we call it transglycosylase enzyme. We have a glycosyl transferase enzyme. This is the enzyme that is required for synthesis of a peptidoglycan chain. So what this enzyme will do? This enzyme will act on this side chain and remove the last amino acid from this chain. So this will remove the last D-alanine from all this chain. Now once this glycosyl transferase will cause the transfer of the last D-alanine from this chain, now the fourth amino acid is now free to bind with one more amino acid. So what this fourth amino acid will do? This fourth amino acid, that is a D-alanine in this case, this will start making a contact with the third amino acid of the other peptidoglycan. So here we have a presence of lysine. So this will start making a contact with the lysine. So alanine will start making a contact with the lysine. Now here also, if you see the second peptidoglycan now I am considering the second peptidoglycan. Here also the fourth D-alanine is free. Now this D-alanine will start making a contact with the third lysine of the other amino acid, other peptidoglycan. So in this way, these peptidoglycans will start sticking to each other. They will arrange themselves in a chain. We call it a peptidoglycan chain. But this is only possible when this enzyme, that is a glycosyl transferase enzyme, has removed the last amino acid from this chain. Then only this fourth is now capable of making contact with other peptidoglycan. So we have a second group of medicine here, second group of antibiotic here, which is inhibitor of cell wall in the bacteria. That's a glycosyl transferase enzyme inhibitor. The medicine name is vancomycin. So let's talk about the second group of antibiotic. We call them glycopeptide antibiotics. So the group of antibiotic is known as glycopeptide antibiotics, where the classical example is vancomycin. So one classical example is vancomycin. Now apart from vancomycin, if any other medicine has the word vanc in its name, that belong to this class of glycopeptide antibiotics. So glycopeptide antibiotics, example is vancomycin, or all other medicines which have the word vanc, plus there is a one drug which does not have the word vanc, but still it belongs to the same class, that is the teicoplanin. So vancomycin, teicoplanin, dalbavancin, telavancin, all these medicines are having a word vanc. So all these medicines are glycopeptide antibiotic. Now what is the mechanism of action? The mechanism of action of these medicines are inhibitor of glycosyl transferase enzyme. So these antibiotics inhibitor of this enzyme, that is a glycosyl transferase enzyme, and by inhibiting glycosyl transferase enzyme, these medicines will inhibit the transfer. Medicines can inhibit the transfer of D-alanine side chain. This will inhibit the transfer of D-alanine side chain, and by inhibiting the transfer of D-alanine side chain, this will stop the peptidoglycan chain formation. This will stop the formation of peptidoglycan chain. So peptidoglycan chain formation is stopped. So peptidoglycan chain formation will not take place when you inhibit this glycosyl transferase enzyme in this bacterial cell wall, and hence the bacterial cell wall is inhibited. And once this bacterial cell wall is not formed, bacteria cannot survive. It's a main covering of the bacteria which protect the bacterial interior part from the environmental hazards. So in this way, the bacteria cannot protect itself and the bacteria will die. Now let's move on to the third group of antibiotics, that is inhibitor of the cell wall. So before that, we'll discuss the completion of this cell wall synthesis, how the cell wall synthesis takes place and how the cell wall get matured. So we discussed that all peptidoglycan arrange themselves in a chain. So I'm just drawing one chain of the peptidoglycan. So this is one chain of peptidoglycan. Similarly, we have one more chain of peptidoglycan. So multiple chains of peptidoglycan present in 2D space. Now what these peptidoglycan chains will do, they will start arranging themselves in a three-dimensional structure. So these peptidoglycan chain will start cross-linking with each other. So we have one chain. In that chain, peptidoglycans are making contact with each other. Now these chains will start making the interlinks with each other. So two chains are combined with each other with some interlinks in a three-dimensional space. Like if I have one peptidoglycan, if I am the one peptidoglycan, I can make contact with interior, posterior, superior, inferior, diagonal. So everywhere I'll make a contact. So a three-dimensional structure is formed, and that will give rigidity to the cell wall. That will give strength to the cell wall. We call it a cross-linking of the peptidoglycan chain. Like if I say this is a peptidoglycan number 2, this will make a contact with here, here and everywhere. So this will make contact with other peptidoglycan of the chain, and in this way it will arrange itself in a chain, itself in a structure with 3D structure. We call it cross-linking. So this is known as cross-linking of the peptidoglycan chain that will take place, and this will give rigidity or the strength to the cell wall. So this will give rigidity to the cell wall, strength to the cell wall, and this step of catalysis, where the chains will make a contact with each other, catalyzed by one enzyme. The name of the enzyme is transpeptidase enzyme. So this is a step that is catalyzed by transpeptidase enzyme. Now this transpeptidase enzyme is also known as penicillin binding protein. So this is also known as penicillin binding protein. So with the help of transpeptidase enzyme, with the help of penicillin binding protein, this will start making contact with each other and will lead to rigidity of the cell wall. So we have a group of antibiotics. We call them beta-lactam antibiotics. So we call them beta-lactam antibiotics, and beta-lactam antibiotics are the one which are inhibitor of this transpeptidase enzyme. Now once they inhibit the transpeptidase enzyme or the penicillin binding protein, now these cross links which are known as transpeptidase, which is catalyzed by transpeptidase enzyme, so these links cannot be formed, and now the rigidity of the cell wall is lost. When the rigidity is lost, the bacterial cell wall becomes fragile and the bacteria will die in absence of this rigidity. So this is the mechanism of action of beta-lactam antibiotics. Now these beta-lactam antibiotics have total 4 subgroups. So we have total 4 subgroups of beta-lactam antibiotics. So what are the 4 subgroups of beta-lactam antibiotics we have? So we have the antibiotics like penicillins. We have the antibiotics like penicillins. We have antibiotics like cephalosporins. So we have medicines like penicillins, cephalosporins. We have the medicines like carbapenems. And we have the medicines like monobactams. So there are total 4 subgroups of antibiotics present under beta-lactam, which are inhibitor of this transpeptidase enzyme. We call them penicillins. All the medicines which are penicillins, they end with the word "cillin." All the medicines which are cephalosporin, they start with the word "ceph." All the medicines which are carbapenims, they end with the word "penim." And the medicine which is monobactam, as the name says, mono, so only one drug is present in this group. Mono means one, and the name of that drug is azeturonam. So only one drug is there, that is the azeturonam. So these are the 4 subgroups of antibiotics which are known as beta-lactam antibiotics. So we have discussed the first mechanism of action, medicines which are cell wall inhibitor. Discuss 3 medicines. Number 1 is known as fosfomycin. You can see here. Second is glycopeptide antibiotic, where the classical example is vancomycin, inhibitor of transglycosylase enzyme. And the third is beta-lactam antibiotics, total 4 in number. We discussed the names also. They are inhibitor of transpeptidase enzyme. These are the medicines which are cell wall inhibitors. Now, after the cell wall inhibitors, we have a second group of medicines, the medicines which are known as cell membrane inhibitors. Medicines which are inhibitor of cell membrane. So which antibiotics are cell membrane inhibitor? These are only 2 antibiotics, very small group of medicines which are cell membrane inhibitor. The medicine name is colistin and one more drug is daptomycin. So one is colistin, one is daptomycin. Students usually make the mnemonic like this way. CM will call the deputy. So the mnemonic is CM will call the deputy. CM means the chief minister. So CM means cell membrane. Call means the colistin and deputy means the daptomycin. So CM will call the deputy, that is a daptomycin. So these are the antibiotics which are cell membrane inhibitors. Now we talk about colistin. Colistin is an antibiotic which is polypeptide. So this medicine is peptide in structure. So and because this medicine is proteinaceous in structure, peptide in structure, this medicine can disrupt. This medicine can disrupt the lipid bilayer of the bacterial cell membrane. So lipid bilayer structure of the cell membrane is disrupted by this colistin, which is polypeptide, and in this way this will inhibit the bacterial cell membrane. Now daptomycin is a drug which has a presence of a chain in its structure, and this medicine chain is responsible for excessive depolarization of the bacteria. So this will result in depolarization. This is responsible for depolarization of the cell membrane of the bacteria, and as a result of depolarization of the cell membrane of the bacteria, this bacteria get oxidized, can get the irreversible injury. So get the irreversible injury to the cell membrane, get oxidative injuries, oxidative stress to the bacterial cell membrane, and without cell membrane, bacteria cannot survive. So these medicines which are cell membrane inhibitors, the medicines names are colistin and the daptomycin. Their detailed mechanism is not clearly defined, but still this is the word they have given in the book, that colistin can disrupt the lipid bilayer structure and daptomycin can cause oxidation or the depolarization of the cell membrane, and in this way this will inhibit the bacterial cell membrane. Now let's move on to the third group of antibiotic, the medicines which are known as protein synthesis inhibitors. So we have the medicines which are known as protein synthesis inhibitor, and we know that the medicines which are protein synthesis inhibitor, these medicines will act on ribosome. So by acting on the ribosome, these medicines can inhibit the conversion of RNA to the protein. So we have the presence of RNA converted to the protein, and this step is inhibited. Now after discussing this cell wall and cell membrane inhibitor, let's talk about the third group of medicines. The medicines are protein synthesis inhibitors. So third group of medicines are medicines that will act on ribosome. So we have already covered the medicines which will act on cell wall, cell membrane. Then we have a cytoplasm. So in cytoplasm, we have a protein synthesis that will take place. So medicines are protein synthesis inhibitors. So protein synthesis inhibitors, these medicines will act on ribosome. And by acting on ribosome, they will inhibit the conversion of RNA to protein. So this is a step that is also known as translation. So in biochemistry, we call it translation. So this step is blocked by some antibiotics. The medicines are known as protein synthesis inhibitors. Now these medicines which are protein synthesis inhibitor, they will act at 2 locations. Like we know that ribosome has 2 subunits in bacteria. One is known as 30S, one is known as 50S. So medicines can act on 30S and 50S ribosome and inhibit the protein synthesis by acting on this ribosome. So if we talk about this protein synthesis, how the protein synthesis will take place. So we know that the DNA is present, which is having all the information present in it. So this DNA will give the information to messenger RNA. So we have 3 RNA present in all cells. One is messenger RNA, transfer RNA, and the ribosomal RNA. So DNA will give signal to the messenger RNA, and in messenger RNA, all the signal is stored in the form of codon. So this signal is stored in the form of codon. This process is known as the transcription. So this is known as transcription. So this is the step, we call it transcription, where the DNA information is shifted to the messenger RNA. Now we have one more RNA, we call it ribosomal RNA. So ribosomal RNA is like this way. It has two subunits, 50S and 30S. So this is ribosomal RNA. Now all the ribosomal RNA first of all arrange themselves in a chain. So this is the chain in which all the ribosomal RNA arrange themselves. That is also known as polysome chain formation. So this is known as polysome chain of ribosomal RNA. So polysome chain of ribosomal RNA, where all the ribosomes of ribosomal RNA of a cell of a bacteria will arrange themselves in a chain. This will provide a base on which the protein synthesis will take place. Now what will happen? This messenger RNA that is having a signal in the form of codon, this messenger RNA will take entry in this polysome chain of RNA. And when this will take entry in this polysome chain of RNA, the decoding will take place. We know that the signal is stored in the form of a codes, that is codon, and now the decoding will take place. So the first codon decoded here, second codon here in this way. So we have a different places of reading the different types of codon, and when the codons are decoded, in the response of these codons, the anticodons are brought by the transfer RNA to this site. So on this ribosomal RNA, we have two important sites. One is known as A site, second is known as P site. So we have A site and P site. So this is A and this is P site. So every ribosomal RNA has two sites. One is A site, one is known as P site. So whenever the codons are decoded, there is a transfer RNA present in the bacteria. This transfer RNA will carry the anticodon. This will carry the anticodon, and all these anticodons are placed at A site. Like first codon is decoded, first anticodon is placed at A site. Second anticodon, second A site. In this way, all the anticodons are placed at A site. So all the anticodons are placed at A site by the transfer RNAs. This is the work of the transfer RNA to transfer this anticodons at the A site. Now when these anticodons are placed at A site, these anticodons are shifted to the P site. So the next synthesis of protein, the A site should be empty. So what will happen? This anticodons which are placed at A site is now shifted to the P site. So this is known as A2P translocation. This is known as A2P translocation. So first is shifted to the P site, second is shifted to the P sites. In this way, this is known as the A2P translocation. Now when this A2P translocation take place, what will happen? All the anticodons are now present at the P site. All the anticodons are now present at the P site. Now from this P site also, now when these codons are placed at A site, now what will happen after that? The first anticodon is shifted to the P site. We call it A2P translocation. So this is known as A2P translocation when the first anticodon is shifted to the P site. Now from this P site, which is where the first anticodon is now present, this is again shifted to the A site of the second ribosome. You can understand. First of all, there is a A2P translocation, then we have P2A translocation. Now when this first anticodon is shifted towards the second A site, now there is a bond formation between 1 and 2. The 2 is already present over there. The 2 anticodon is already present over there. Now there is a bond formation between 1 and 2. This is known as a peptide bond, and this is how the protein chain formation will start, and this is catalyzed by one enzyme known as peptidyl transferase enzyme. So peptidyl transferase enzyme will come into the picture, and this enzyme will catalyze this step, and now the one anticodon, the first anticodon will make a bond with the second anticodon, and now the two anticodons are present together at A site. Now they both are shifted towards the P site. Now the 1 and 2 both are shifted to the P site. We again call it A2P translocation. Now again there is a P2A translocation. So first and second anticodon which are present at the P site, they are again shifted to the A site. Now there is a bond formation between second and third. So again the enzyme is peptidyl transferase enzyme. So in this way what will happen? This chain is started getting elongated and this protein formation will take place. So this is known as the process of translation. So what are the various steps? First of all, there is a formation of ribosomal RNA polysome chain. Then the messenger RNA will come, get inserted at the interface of 50S and 30S. Then the transfer RNA will bring the anticodons. Then there is a A2P translocation, then P2A, A2P, P2A. So alternatively, this will move and there is a elongation of the chain that will take place because of the formation of the peptide bond, but catalyzed by the enzyme peptidyl transferase enzyme. So we have the antibiotics which are protein synthesis inhibitor. These antibiotics will act on either on 30S subunit or 50S subunits and inhibit these various sites. So which antibiotics will act on 30S subunits? The medicines names are aminoglycosides. So we have the antibiotics like aminoglycosides. So aminoglycosides are the antibiotics which are inhibitor of protein synthesis by acting on a 30S ribosome. So how these medicines will act? These medicines will inhibit the polysome ribosomal RNA chain formation. So they are inhibitor of polysome chain formation. That's a chain of a ribosomal RNA. So polysome chain formation, ribosomal RNA chain formation inhibited by the aminoglycoside. And when this polysomal chain formation will not take place, then the messenger RNA reading or decoding is also not possible because there is no formation of the chain. Then we have the presence of tetracyclines. Now tetracyclines are the antibiotics which will act on this ribosome, again act on the 30S subunits, inhibit the activity of the transfer RNA. So this will occupy the A site. So these antibiotics will occupy the A site, and once it will occupy the A site, the transfer RNA will not be able to donate the anticodon at the A site. This is how the tetracyclines will act in the body. So aminoglycosides, tetracyclines, they will act on 30S ribosome. Now any antibiotic that ends with the word cycline is a tetracycline group of antibiotic. Example is tetracycline itself. So tetracycline itself is an antibiotic, doxycycline, minocycline, all these medicines are tetracycline antibiotics. But if we talk about this medicine, that is aminoglycosides. Aminoglycosides medicines are mainly, the medicines names are like gentamicin. So medicine is like gentamicin. We have a medicine like amikacin. We have a medicine like amikacin. We have a medicine like tobramycin. So we have the antibiotics like gentamicin, amikacin, tobramycin, streptomycin. All these medicines are there which belong to this class. We have one more drug like natilimycin. So gentamicin, amikacin, tobramycin, streptomycin, all these medicines belong to this class. Now we have the antibiotics that will act on 50S ribosome. So antibiotics that will act on 50S subunit of the ribosome inhibit the protein synthesis. So we have the antibiotics like macrolides. We have the antibiotics like macrolides. So examples of macrolide antibiotics are like we have a drug erythromycin. So erythromycin belong to this class. Azithromycin. Azithromycin belong to this class. We have a medicine like roxithromycin, and we have one more medicine like clarithromycin. So we have the medicine like azithromycin, roxithromycin, clarithromycin, erythromycin. You can remember with the mnemonic that is CARE. So in this mnemonic of CARE, clarithromycin, azithromycin, roxithromycin, erythromycin, all these medicines are known as macrolide antibiotics. We can see even the aminoglycosides end with the word mycin. So for aminoglycoside, you can remember the mnemonic like TAG. So in this mnemonic of TAG, you can remember tobramycin, amikacin, gentamicin. These are the examples, or S means the streptomycin. So mnemonic is TAGs or STAG, whatever want to remember. These are the antibiotics which end with the word mycin. They are the aminoglycoside. And CARE is a mnemonic to remember the names of mycins which are known as macrolides. So we have antibiotics like macrolides. We have antibiotic like streptogramin. So we have an antibiotic, we call them streptogramins. Now in streptogramins, we have only one drug, that is known as streptogramin. So this medicine is a combination of two antibiotics. That's a combination of delphopristine plus quinopristine. So this is the combination of two antibiotics in ratio 70:30. So in ratio 70:30, we have a presence of delphopristine, quinopristine. We call it streptogramin antibiotic. So these medicines will also act on 50S ribosome. Now we have a group of antibiotics, we call them lincosamides. Now in lincosamide group of antibiotics, only one drug is used in India, that is clindamycin. Although in other countries we have other medicines also, but clindamycin is a classical example of a medicine, that's a lincosamide. So we have total 3 group of medicines that we have covered so far. These medicines will act on 30S ribosome, and all these medicines are inhibitor of A2P translocation. So which particular step is inhibited? Answer is A2P translocation. So A2P translocation is inhibited by these antibiotics like macrolide, streptogramin and linezolid. Number 4, example of the drug that will act on 50S ribosome. The medicine name is chloramphenicol. So chloramphenicol is an independent antibiotic. This is an outdated antibiotic not used nowadays by systemic route because of the important side effect as bone marrow suppression. So this is the antibiotic that will cause bone marrow suppression. That's why this is an outdated antibiotic. And chloramphenicol is a drug that is inhibitor of P2A translocation. You can see the above antibiotics are A2P translocation inhibitor, and this is inhibitor of P2A translocation. And once this chain cannot move from P2A site, then the peptidyl transferase enzyme, the enzyme that we have discussed, the known as peptidyl transferase enzyme. So peptidyl transferase enzyme is not able to act, and hence the chain formation, peptide chain formation is not possible. So peptide chain formation is not possible when you inhibit the peptidyl transferase enzyme. This is the mechanism of action of chloramphenicol. Then we have a drug. The drug name is linezolid. Now linezolid is an antibiotic. This will also act on 50S ribosome. We have one more drug belong to this class, that is tedizolid. So linezolid, tedizolid, two antibiotics that will act on 50S ribosome. These medicines particularly act on 23S subunit. Like even in 50S we have a 23S subunit. So linezolid will act on 23S subunit. And this is again inhibitor of the initial step, that is a polysome chain formation. Inhibitor of the initial step, that is a polysome chain formation. So polysome chain formation inhibitor, ribosomal RNA chain formation inhibitor. The drug name is linezolid, tedizolid. So this antibiotic can also be used. So these are the 5 antibiotic groups that will act on 50S ribosome. Now if you combine this 30S and the 50S antibiotics, student can remember these antibiotics names with the mnemonic, that is buy at 30, sells at 50. So buy at 30, sells at 50, like you have bought something at 30 rupees and sold it at 50 rupees. So buy at 30, sells at 50. So this is the mnemonic one can remember. So you can remember like this way: aminoglycosides, tetracyclines, they will act on 30S ribosome. Streptogramins, erythromycin, that's a macrolide group of antibiotics. So streptogramins, erythromycin, lincosamides, that's a clindamycin, linezolid and chloramphenicol, they will act on 50S ribosome. And this mnemonic is in a sequence of the various steps of protein synthesis except for the linezolid. You can see here, like aminoglycoside is inhibitor of the first two ribosomal RNA and the messenger RNA. Tetracycline starts with T, inhibitor of transfer RNA. So aminoglycoside, inhibitor of first two RNA, tetracycline, inhibitor of transfer RNA. Then we have a streptogramin, erythromycin, lincosamide. These three group of antibiotics, inhibitor of A to P translocation, and chloramphenicol is inhibitor of two Ps, that two things that start from letter P, P to A translocation, and peptidyl transferase activity. Only thing is linezolid that you have to remember. You have to somewhere squeeze in this linezolid here. So linezolid is inhibitor of again ribosomal RNA chain formation. This is all about the medicines which are protein synthesis inhibitor. So after protein synthesis inhibitor, we have a fourth group of medicines which are folic acid pathway inhibitor. Medicines which are inhibitor of folic acid pathway. So what is this folic acid pathway in the bacteria? So in this bacteria there is a presence of a chemical compound, we call it PABA. Now this PABA combines with the second chemical, that is pteridinic acid. Now when it will bind to pteridinic acid in the presence of an enzyme, this is converted to dihydropteric acid. So this is converted to dihydropteric acid. Now this dihydropteric acid is acted upon by one enzyme. The name of the enzyme is dihydrofolate synthase enzyme. So this is acted upon by one enzyme, dihydrofolate synthase enzyme, and there is a formation of dihydrofolate that will take place. So dihydrofolate synthesis will take place in a bacteria. Now this dihydrofolate synthesis that will take place in a bacteria, this is acted upon by one enzyme. We call it dihydrofolate reductase enzyme. So this is acted upon by one enzyme. We call it dihydrofolate reductase enzyme, and therefore this is converted to tetrahydrofolate. So this is converted to tetrahydrofolate. Now this tetrahydrofolate is the active form of folic acid. So you can see dihydrofolate is also known as folic acid. So bacteria has to make its own folic acid. This you people have to understand. We as a human, we people don't make folic acid. We directly get it from the food. So this folic acid, we directly get it from the food, but bacteria is dependent on its own pathway to make its folic acid, convert it to dihydrofolate, and now the tetrahydrofolate, which is the active form of folic acid, this is ultimately required for DNA synthesis. So this is ultimately required for DNA synthesis in a bacteria. So we have medicines which are dihydrofolate synthase inhibitor, we have medicines which are dihydrofolate reductase inhibitor, and hence inhibit this folic acid pathway. So which medicines are dihydrofolate synthase inhibitor? These medicines are like Dapsone. So Dapsone is a drug that we use for leprosy. We have a medicine like PABA itself. We have a antibiotic like sulfonamides. So we have the antibiotics like sulfonamides. Sulfonamides inhibitor of this enzyme. We have a medicine like PAS, para-amino-salicylic acid. So para-amino-salicylic acid structure resemble the para-amino-benzoic acid. So when you give these medicines, Dapsone, sulfonamides, PAS, these medicines are inhibitor of dihydrofolate synthase enzyme, inhibit this metabolic pathway. Now we have a drug which is dihydrofolate reductase inhibitor. So the medicine which is dihydrofolate reductase inhibitor, the drug name is trimethoprim. So trimethoprim is dihydrofolate reductase enzyme inhibitor. So these are the antibiotics which are inhibitor of this folic acid pathway. Now what we people have done, we people have discovered an antibiotic that is known as cotrimoxazole. So as the name suggests, cotrimoxazole, this medicine is a combination. So this medicine is a combination, and this is a combination of two antibiotics. Like this is a combination of trimethoprim. This is the combination of trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole. Combination of trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole. So combination of trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole, the drug name is cotrimoxazole. Now this combination is present in a ratio 1:5. Like if I say the medicine is a single strength tablet, so I will write like this way. So if I am having a medicine available in the market, single strength tablet, so if it contains trimethoprim 80 milligram, then the sulfamethoxazole is 5 times, that is a 400 milligram. So this ratio is always maintained 1:5. So this combination when I use in clinics, I can see trimethoprim will inhibit this dihydrofolate reductase and sulfamethoxazole will inhibit the dihydrofolate synthase. So this is known as a sequential block. So this is known as a sequential block because I am inhibiting the two steps which are present adjacently in this pathway. So I am blocking this pathway in a more efficient manner. So overall efficiency of this drug is higher than the individual drug alone. So overall efficacy of the treatment is improved when you give this medicine cotrimoxazole to the patients. Now let's move on to the fifth and the last group of medicines, which are systemic antibiotics, the medicines which are nuclear pathway inhibitors. So we have some antibiotics which are nuclear pathway inhibitors. So we talk about drugs which are nuclear pathway inhibitors. We have a first medicine, the medicines which are known as rifampicin, or we also call them rifamycins. So we have a group of medicines, rifamycins. Here we have a drug like rifampicin. We have a drug like rifaximin. So we have the antibiotics which start with word rifa. Plus we have a drug fidaxomicin. We have one more antibiotic, we call it fidaxomicin. So rifamycin, fidaxomicin are the two antibiotics. These medicines are RNA polymerase inhibitor. Now you can see from the name, the medicines are RNA polymerase inhibitor. So these medicines inhibit the polymerization of the RNA. And we know that the RNA is formed from the DNA. So this is the step that is inhibited by these antibiotics, inhibitor of the DNA to the RNA conversion. So we can say like this way, the medicines are inhibitor of the step that is known as transcription. So transcription is a step that is DNA converted to RNA. This is inhibited by the medicines like rifampicin and the fidaxomicin. Now we have the medicines, we call them fluoroquinolones. So here we have a group of medicines, we call them fluoroquinolones. Now all the medicines which are fluoroquinolones, these medicines end with the word floxacin. So these medicines end with the word floxacin, we call them fluoroquinolones. Now these medicines are DNA gyrase inhibitor. Medicines are inhibitor of the DNA gyrase enzyme. Now what is DNA gyrase enzyme? DNA gyrase is an enzyme that will prevent the positive supercoiling. So we know that like during the DNA replication. So during DNA replication, so if I say this is the DNA, so there are two strands of DNA which are interwoven with each other. So during this synthesis, this bacterial two strands of DNA should get separated out. And once they get separated out, there is a risk of positive recoiling. So positive recoiling can occur like just like if you can see, if you see the braids of a female, like you must have seen the braids of a female. So females usually tie their hairs like this way. So once we try to open it, what will happen? Once we try to open the lower part, there is a positive recoiling in the above part. So this positive recoiling will prevent the further opening of the chain and the DNA replication is not possible. So DNA replication will start like this way. That is stopped because of positive recoiling. So what this enzyme will do? This enzyme will put a nix. This will put a cuts over here, and once we put a cuts over here, this positive recoiling will start getting open up, and in this way there is a easy replication of the DNA that is possible. So what these medicines will do? These medicines are DNA gyrase enzyme inhibitor, and by inhibiting this DNA gyrase, this medicine can stop the DNA replication of the bacteria. And DNA gyrase enzyme which will promote this DNA replication, that is inhibited by these medicines, and DNA replication is stopped, and hence these medicines will inhibit the bacterial multiplication. The medicines are fluoroquinolones. Now, apart from fluoroquinolones, we have a fourth group of medicines, the medicines which are known as direct DNA inhibitors. Now, how these medicines can inhibit DNA directly? So, these medicines can generate the free radicals. So, medicines can generate free radicals, and with generation of the free radicals, these medicines can cause direct oxidation injury. Medicines can result in direct oxidation injury to the DNA, and because of this direct oxidation injury to the DNA, the bacteria cannot survive. So these medicines are direct DNA inhibitor. For example, we have a drug here, the drug name is nitrofurantoin. So nitrofurantoin is an antibiotic. This will donate the nitro group. So this will donate the nitro group as a free group, and this nitro group will directly damage the DNA with the oxidation injury. The drug name is nitrofurantoin. We have a second example, like we have a medicines group, we call them nitroamidazoles. So the medicines are known as nitroamidazoles. One of the example of this group is metronidazole. So we have our medicines like metronidazole, onidazole, secnidazole, all these medicines are there. Now these medicines are inhibitor of an enzyme, we call it P4 enzyme. So we have a presence of an enzyme, we call it P4 enzyme, we call it pyruvate. The full form of this enzyme is pyruvate ferredoxin. So pyruvate ferredoxin oxidoreductase enzyme. So this is the enzyme that will absorb the free radicals. This will absorb the free electrons in a bacteria. So when this enzyme is inhibited, there is a more formation of the free radicals in the bacteria, and these free radicals will directly damage the DNA. So this will cause direct injury to a DNA by inhibiting one enzyme. We call it pyruvate ferredoxin oxidoreductase enzyme. The medicine name is metronidazole. So this is all about the medicines which are direct DNA inhibitor. So there are four groups of medicines which are inhibitor of the nuclear pathway. Medicines are rifamycin, fidaxomicin. They are the RNA polymerase inhibitor. One can remember like this way. Starts with R, inhibitor of R. Fluoroquinolones, inhibitor of DNA gyrase, that is required for the prevention of the positive recoiling. So when this enzyme is inhibited, the DNA replication is stopped. And we have medicines which are direct DNA inhibitor. Now after this, medicines which are given by the systemic route, we have some local antibiotic ointments. So most of the local antibiotic ointments are protein synthesis inhibitors. So they are inhibitor of the protein synthesis. For example, we have a antibiotic like framycetin. So framycetin available in the market with the brand name of soframycin. So framycetin will act on 30S ribosome like an aminoglycoside. So like an aminoglycoside, it will inhibit the protein synthesis by acting on the 30S ribosome. Same thing applies to neomycin. So neomycin is available in the market as an aminoglycoside with the brand name of neosporin. So neosporin, soframycin, they are the aminoglycosides, inhibitor of protein synthesis by acting on 30S ribosome. Similarly, we have the medicine like ritapamulin. Now ritapamulin is again a protein synthesis inhibitor by acting on the 50S ribosome. So ritapamulin useful for skin ointment. It will act on 50S ribosome, inhibit the protein synthesis. Now we have one more antibiotic that is known as mupirocin. So mupirocin is one more antibiotic ointment. Now this is inhibitor of acylation of the transfer RNA. So acylation of the transfer RNA inhibited by this mupirocin, and once you inhibit the acylation of the transfer RNA, the transfer RNA cannot load the anticodon and can place it on the A site. So all these medicines are protein synthesis inhibitor. We have one more medicine like bacitracin. So bacitracin is a medicine which is inhibitor of both cell wall as well as cell membrane. So this is inhibitor of both cell wall and cell membrane. This is also used as an ointment. And we have a drug colistin. Colistin can also be, it's a cell membrane inhibitor. This can also be used as an antibiotic ointment. So it is a cell membrane inhibitor, can be used as an antibiotic ointment. So all these medicines, I have given some examples of the drugs which are antibiotic ointment, not very important for the exam. So in this video, we people have covered about the classification of antibiotics: cell wall inhibitor, cell membrane inhibitor, protein synthesis inhibitor, folic acid pathway inhibitors, and the medicines that will act on nuclear material. Thanks for watching this video.